Welcome to the Expert in You podcast, the show for professional entrepreneurs, experts, authors, speakers, coaches, and consultants who are ready to elevate their business, expand their influence, and boost their bank accounts. Join us as we dive deep with industry-leading experts who share their top strategies, invaluable insights, practical tips, and personal experiences to help you achieve extraordinary growth and success. Whether you're looking to sharpen your skills, stay ahead of the curve, or find that competitive edge, this podcast is your ultimate resource for unlocking your full potential. So tune in, get inspired, grab your coffee, and let's unlock the expert in you. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Expert in You podcast. I'm your host, Dan Carden. And I have to tell you, this has been a long time coming, but I am so excited for my guest today. I have the amazing Dave Sanderson with me, and I just want to give you a little bit of bio about Dave. But Dave, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Ann, for having me today.
I have to tell you, his claim to fame is he was the last one off the plane when it went down in the Hudson years ago. What year was that, Dave?
2009.
2009. But he is doing fantastic things across the world, actually. Dave is an international keynote speaker. He's a thought leader on how to embrace uncertainty. He's a best-selling author, and he's a recent publisher of a magazine called Moments Matter. He does a lot in the corporate space, and he's also known as Airplane Dave for swimming with the Navy SEALs. And we're going to dive into all of this. I'm just super excited to have him here. He also is a philanthropist. He does a lot of giving back and just does so many good things out there in the world. So I'm just really excited to get all this going with you, Dave, and have you just share everything with my audience. And again, just thank you for being here. So honored.
Thank you. I'm excited to be with you, and I'm excited to see how this conversation goes. Thank you.
We're going to have some fun. And
all right.
I do have to say, Dave is going to also, I've asked him to be on the cover of my next Expert in You magazine issue that will be coming out. So he is going to be gracing the cover of that. So I'm really excited to have him on the cover of that as well. So, all right. So Dave, you've got a story. Let's dive into the backstory. I know you've been speaking for a lot of years, even before all of that happened with the Hudson, right?
A little bit before, yeah. It wasn't a major thing for me, but yeah.
So all of that, nothing like turning a challenge into an opportunity or an adversity into an opportunity. And I think you teach a lot of that now. So yeah, why don't you just give us a little bit of that backstory?
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, I guess the biggest thing I like to always start off with is I wasn't supposed to be on that plane. I was scheduled on a 5 o'clock flight on that day, but we were working at a distribution center in Brooklyn, New York. And most people have never worked in a distribution center, and we were doing technology checks. We were doing how to improve their technology. That's why we were there. And if you've never been in a distribution center, they open up very early in the morning because trucks come in early to pick up their goods, and that's how it all works. So we went in at 5 o'clock that morning just because we wanted to see how the whole process worked. So we got done about 10. And I was at the end of a 3-day business trip, and I'm like, yeah, I get a chance to go home early. So called a travel agent to work with her, and she put me on U.S. Airways Flight 1549. Mm-hmm. I gave up my first class seat at 5 o'clock for seat 15A on Flight 1549 on January 15th. So the number 15 follows me through this entire day. But yeah, I went. So I always want to start off with that because things happen for a reason and a purpose, right?
Yes.
And you don't think you think your life's going one direction, and all of a sudden it's taking a different direction, but nothing unusual. I mean, it was 11 degrees and snowing that day in New York, but that's no big deal. New York in the winter, all right, that's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. But it was about a minute after we took off is when I heard an explosion on the plane. Never heard an explosion on a plane. That got my attention. So I looked up, and I was on a window seat, so I looked out the window. I saw fire coming out from the left wing. So I knew something had happened. But, you know, I also know I fly a lot because I was a chairman. I fly 100 times a year. Mm-hmm. Planes have multiple engines. They have to. They have to have more than one engine to fly commercially.
Right.
So you got another engine. But no one knew at that moment. No one knew on the plane at that moment what happened on the left side where I was, also up on the right side, the same exact second. And I tell people I think that's where God's grace entered, because I truly believe if people would have heard boom, boom, instead of boom, I think it could have been a lot of panic. because you got to sort of put yourself in perspective. This is New York City. You're over Manhattan, and you hear a boom, right?
Right.
So, but we heard one boom, so I think most people thought, okay, we're just going back to the airport. It's like I did. I said, we're just going back to the airport, right? Get another plane, and I am not going to get home early today. So, it's one of those things. But, as you start banking, I looked out the window, and I saw Manhattan was right out my window. And I'd never seen Manhattan that close. I mean, we were right there, right? I mean, the buildings were right out my window. I'm like, whoa, never seen that. And then I started looking out the window to see what was going on and which direction we were going. And also I see this bridge coming up. I've never seen that. That was the George Washington Bridge. And I tell people, I don't think the captain gets enough credit for getting that plane over the bridge, because that bridge is 600 feet up.
Right.
It was about 1,000 feet descending at that moment. He cleared about 400 feet. And I've had to, I have the opportunity and the pleasure of getting to know a lot of the first responders and the units, and I get to talk to them. And after speaking with a couple of us, and I think it was one of the people at the Port Authority told me this. On average, on that George Washington Bridge during rush hour, this is rush hour. It's at 3:27 p.m. in the afternoon. There's roughly 800 cars at any one moment on that bridge. And so I said, I don't think he gets enough credit, because if he crashes into that bridge, it's
oh my gosh, devastation.
It's devastation, right? So, but he gets it over the bridge, but now he's heading to the water, and then you hear his famous words. If you saw the movie, that's what he said. This is your captain, brace for impact. And that's when I knew this is probably not going to end up well, because he's heading straight into the river, straight to the water. And like, I don't ever remember a successful water landing in my life. All I ever see is planes tipping over, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, but he, as we know now, he hit it perfectly, right? So the captain I tell people, the captain gets all the credit at that point. But now you got the other issue. And you got a plane sinking in 36-degree water. You got to get out.
Right.
And the back of the plane is already submerged underwater. See, the angle most people see is the one from the front.
Right.
The reason I put it on my book, Moments Matter, the book from the side, so people could see it was actually underwater. So water was anywhere from ankle, knee to waist deep at where I was, and it was about chest level in the back, because when I was getting ready to get out, I was getting out. My game plan, because I played athletics, and I always went into every meeting, business meeting, every game, I had a game plan. Okay, so what we're going to do, and you got to adapt. And my game plan was aisle up out. I kept saying that in my mind. If I survive, number one. Number two is going to be aisle up out. So I got to the aisle with my time to go out, but that's when everything changed for me, because that was the moment when I was ready to go out, and I heard my mom start talking to me in the back of my head. And what I heard my mother tell me, she passed away in 1997, but this is something she would tell me when I was a child, and I just heard it. It was like, if you do the right thing, God will take care of you. And see, one thing I tell people about my mother is she never told me what to do. I think that was one of the greatest gifts my mother and father did. They made me make choices in my life and have consequences. And I think as a parent, I wish I had done more of that with my kids, because as you know, when you get in the real world, you got to make decisions.
Right.
And decisions have consequences.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think so. So I made a decision. Instead of going out, I went towards the back of the plane to see if anybody needed help. Everything was moving pretty well, because water was about chest level deep. And I got behind the last person, and that's why I was going out. And you got to remember, the water was already underwater. It's about chest level deep. That's where it hit. So the bins have broken open. You got luggage floating in the water, and it's late afternoon, New York winter. It's already getting dark. So all this combination. So you're just starting to make your way out. And then I saw a light on the right side of the plane at 10F, like, I'm out of here. So I started to get out like everybody else, and I looked out, and there was no room on the wing or the boat for me. It was already filled up. So that's why I was inside the plane, waist deep in 36-degree water for about 7 minutes. That's how I became the plane, because I couldn't.
And now you actually do it. Now you actually jump in the water on purpose. We'll talk about that. But
yeah. It wasn't my choice, and that wasn't my choice either. I mean, my game plan was like to get on the wing and go, but then the plane. About 7 minutes into this thing, I felt the plane shift. And I found out later what happened. One of the boats that was part of the rescue, it was a tugboat. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen a tugboat, but they're big, big, heavy boats. They tug boats in, right? That's what they do.
Right.
He was there support, but they backed him out. He backed out. He hit the front of the plane and shook the plane. And
Oh
when it
my
shook the
goodness.
plane, I felt water moving up my back. And the first thought that I had was Titanic. I mean,
Right.
all I can visualize is that movie when that boat tipped up.
Uh-huh.
Everybody inside got sucked to the bottom of the Atlantic. I said, do not be sucked down, right? You got to get out. And that's why I jumped in and swam to the closest boat that I could find. And I always thank my mom and dad for making me get swimming lessons because I may never get off the plane. And I tell people it's the longest 15-yard swim of my life.
Wow.
Not only was the water 36 degrees, I was fully clothed, but there was
Mm-hmm.
also jet fuel in the water. And that's why I wear glasses today, because I got jet fuel in my eyes from the swim.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
was having a little haze when I got out. I was having hard trouble seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But I did get out. I did got to the end. And I was holding on to the wing and holding on to the ladder, bobbing up and down. And he yelled to climb, climb, climb. I got up, can't. And then the word my mom hated most of life was the word can't. If you say
Right.
can't to my mom, says you can't do it, you're going to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
I got one arm up. Somebody got it. The other arm up. Somebody got it. To this day, I do not know who these two gentlemen are, but they pulled me on the ferry.
Wow.
That's how I got out. So it was.
Wow.
That's when all my fun started, because now you've been in water, 36-degree water for over 7 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and the air temperature is 11 degrees, and it's hitting you all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Because what people will tell, people like medical people will tell you is you can go all day on adrenaline.
Right.
Adrenaline drops, right? When you say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I got it, and all of a sudden, I was so cold. It's
Right.
hard to explain how cold you are. You can barely breathe. And that was the moment I thought I actually was going to die. That was the moment I thought I'm not going to make it because I can't breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately, I had someone there to let me make a phone call to my wife, and she wasn't there, but I left a voice message, and all I could get out is, "This is your father. I've been in a plane crash." That's all I could get out. And
Oh
that's how my
my
family found out I've been in a
gosh.
plane crash. That's it.
Oh
So
my goodness. I
that's
would
the
not have
backstory.
wanted to be your wife on the other end of that line. I just have to say how
She
scary
never she
that
never
would
got
be.
it. It went to our voicemail at home. She was taking our son to basketball practice because that's what moms do,
Right.
right?
It's a
Yeah.
good thing she never got it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's heard it when she got home because
Hmm.
my daughter, who was a junior in high school, was the one who got the message and called my wife. And then is when my wife was having some challenges. Fortunately, the minister of our church was there, and he took
Hmm.
responsibility for our son, which is very nice of him to do.
Right.
She could figure out what she was going to do, right? Because she had to. Now she's in go mode. You know.
Oh my gosh. What a story. Wow. And the fact that first of all, thank you to your mom
Yep.
for the way she raised you and the things that she instilled in you. That's so powerful. And I also love too that you have a faith. And I don't know how people do it when they don't have a faith. And that's such a huge comfort in any time that you're in difficult situations. But wow, what a story, Dave. So I really hadn't heard it quite like that coming right from you. And super, super powerful. At what point did you kind of start turning this into then like a worldwide speaking career, and you've been on a TEDx stage and all those things? How did that all come about?
Yeah, Kaylee wasn't my plan. What happened though is Sunday after the plane crash, I went to my church, and everybody wanted to talk to me. I was on every TV show
Mm-hmm.
in the world, right? So I mean, everyone wanted to talk
Right.
to me. I tell people there was one guy who really wanted to talk to me. He was in charge of men's breakfast, and he asked me if I would speak at men's breakfast next week. I said, no problem, dude. That's 50 old guys eating pancakes, right? All right, a walk in the park, right? Well, I know they advertised it all over Charlotte. They had over 500 people show up to this thing.
Oh
They
my
actually
goodness.
moved it to the gym, right? We had a gym in our
Mm-hmm.
church, right? And now I'm
Yes.
freaking out. I don't even know what. I mean, I was go go go, and I was trying to work. I was trying to. So I went outside behind the. We have a curtain at the end of it. You know, they have a stage and a curtain.
Mm-hmm.
I said, God, give me something to say, man. Just give it to me, right? And he gave me something to say. I don't even know what I said, but I got done speaking, and this is where the transformation started. This is where it started taking off because two men wanted to talk to me. One was from Bank of
Mm-hmm.
America, one was from Wells Fargo.
Uh,
I had to put people on the plane with me. That's no big deal.
uh-huh.
But what happened was I was standing there talking to these two gentlemen, and all of a sudden there's this lady in the back of the room just looking at me, eyeing me, squaring me up. She's an elderly lady, probably 70, 80 years old at least. And she's like looking at me. She caught my eye and started walking up around. And she just walked in the conversation I was having and grabbed my arm really tight. And I'm like jumping, like, I don't know what this old lady's going to do to me, right?
Mhm.
She looked me in the eye and said something that changed that entire day and probably changed the direction. She said, I was questioning if there's a God, and I don't believe in miracles. But you're physical evidence that there is a God and he does miracles. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. She let my arm go and she just walks away. I've never seen her again. I look over these two men, and I've never seen two men cry like this in my life. I had two men bawling in front of me, crying. And my minister was behind me witnessing this whole thing. He witnessed it. So I like turned around and said, like, well, what's going on, right? What's happening? I'm like, what's going on? But then all of a sudden I figured out, at least for that moment, this lady believes there is a God who does miracles without physical evidence. And that was the moment I said, I have a bigger mission than this.
Right. God's got something big for you.
Yeah. And that's why I started speaking locally. And then all of a sudden it just started blossoming. And my big break came when I spoke at the Supreme Court with the American Red Cross and with Justice Kennedy being our sponsor. And that was the one that sort of broke me open a little bit. I mean, I was honored that a Supreme Court justice wanted to hear my story. And we got in there, and I don't know if you've ever been to Supreme Court, but there's like 3 levels of security, right? I mean, there's tight security. And we get in there and he's greeting everybody, right? That's what he does. That's what they do. He said, here, I'll come back to my quarters and give me a 3-minute version of what happened. He brings me back to his quarters. And I'm standing there with a justice one-on-one. And I give him what I just shared with you in 3 minutes, right? Right? And I get this picture taken. And he said, let's get our picture taken. So I'm like, all goofy. I'm like, wow, look at this. I'm a Supreme Court justice, right?
For those of you listening to the audio, I wish you could see his face. You'll have to watch the video on YouTube.
You look at that picture. I got that picture on the web, and you look at that picture, I was like an idiot. But that's okay. I was like a giddy little kid, right? But no, that was the one that sort of broke me open because all of a sudden people started hearing it in a different way. And we raised over, I think, close to $600,000 that night for the American Red Cross.
Amazing.
So it was a big night all the way around, right? It was a big night all the way around. So very honored to do it.
Oh gosh, what a great story. And I just love how God's been able to use this in you. And now you do so many great things on top of your business. So you're able to turn it into a highly successful business, highly successful speaking business, working in corporations and all of that. But then you've also done some really great things. Hi, friend. I have an exciting announcement. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Expert in You podcast, but I have to ask you, have you checked out the latest issue of Expert in You magazine yet? It's jam-packed with rich content, powerful strategies, inspiring stories, and so much more to help you elevate your business and personal growth. Don't miss out. Go grab your digital copy now and join our community of experts making a difference every day. Go to expertinyoumagazine.com and check out your digital copy today. Transform your expertise into success with Expert in You magazine. It's not just a publication, it is a movement. So we'll dive into the business part first and what you do there, and then we'll get into more the philanthropy work and charity work that you do, because I definitely want to dive into that. He does some very cool things. So how many books do you have back there behind you, Dave?
We have 4 books. We got 4 books. A Brace for Impact. I'm a contributing author, so I get contributing author status. The other 3, Moments Matter, From Turmoil to Triumph, and The Limitless Life that I personally wrote. So we got technically 3 of my books and 4 that I'm involved with. Yes. Awesome.
And where can they get those, Dave?
Amazon is probably the easiest place to get those right now. Or if they want them personalized, go to my website, davesandersonspeaks.com, and I'll be more than happy to personalize the books for them.
Very cool. Okay, so let's dive into what you actually do now when the things that you talk about and really how you are trying to impact companies, corporations, really people all over the world. You really talk about people first. Right? Valuing people first. And I think that's so important, because have we just not lost sight of that?
Yep.
It's unbelievable. But your story, Dave, about being in the back of the plane, like God speaking to you, your mom speaking to you, hearing her words, and then you moving to the back of the plane instead of trying to get out. to help other people, it just speaks volumes. And so you walked that talk, so to speak. So to speak, no
So to
pun
speak.
intended there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's
talk
good. That was
about
a good
how,
one. That's a good one.
yeah, talk about that
Yeah.
when you share about that when you're on a stage speaking.
Yeah, one of the things when I talk about some of the lessons from this experience, I share a story what happened back in, I think it's 2000, 2001, when I was with the head of security for a guy by the name of Tony Robbins, and I was traveling with
Mm-hmm.
Tony, and I had the honor to do that and watch his back, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
got to see and be with him and learn, right, all these things.
Right.
But one of the big benefits that I had is I escorted his celebrities, his guests, right? And one of the guests
Mm-hmm.
was General Colin Powell. And,
Mm-hmm.
and this is when he was right after the Iraq War, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he had not become Secretary of State yet. So it was in that period.
Mm-hmm.
And I was escorting him. And usually my protocol I learned is just sort of be quiet and just make sure they get where they need to get to, right? And that was my protocol. And we were coming down the elevator ramp at the resort, and it stopped. And one of the people from the hotel wanted to get on with their big cart, right, with all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I said, please, could you just take the next one? He goes, no, no, no. Let him come on. I said, are you sure? He goes, listen, he's got a job just like you got a job, like I got a job. He said, people value people.
Mm-hmm.
And that taught me a great lesson about how he did his work, how that mindset is like, I value everybody. I don't care if you're the
Right.
grunt. I don't care if you're the general. Everybody's got a job. We should value everybody's their position, what they've got to do. And so I think that embedded in my head that,
Mm-hmm.
and I go and I talk about, I want to understand somebody's backstory before I judge somebody, because the biggest lesson
Right.
out on the Hudson for me was that. And what happened was, and how it's really all came full circle, was about 6 weeks after I went back to New York City. I was on Good Morning America with a bunch of other passengers in the crew. We did all these interviews, right? And as you probably know, they have these things called green rooms where they hold
Mm-hmm.
you, right?
Right.
So we're back in the green room. And one of the passengers started getting very vocal, very emotional. And I'm looking at him, man, like, what's wrong with this guy, man? We just got off Good Morning America. We survived a plane crash. What's
Right.
wrong, right? But, so I started judging him quickly until I found out a little later that he was going through a divorce and he lost his job. And the meaning he attached to this whole plane crash was devastation. My life was devastated.
Right.
I said, how many times in my life have I judged somebody so quickly,
Mm-hmm.
right? That I maybe lost an opportunity, relationship, money, whatever it is. If I could change one thing in my life, just be less judgmental, how could that affect my life? And that's what I've been focused on. People value people. That's where it all started coming full circles, right? Just value somebody else until you know their backstory, right?
Yes.
So
I love that, because how often, it's kind of ingrained in people to be judgmental, right?
yeah.
I don't know why that is, but it is kind of ingrained in people. So I love that you bring this to really conscious awareness. And that's really what it is. It's like being aware. Do you do that? Are you someone who does that? If you could reframe that, if you could change that, imagine if everyone changed that. Wow.
This world will be a different place if everybody could
What
just
a
stop
world
judging
we would
people.
have.
We might have
Yes.
even have discussions during an election. You never quite
Imagine
know, right?
that.
How about that? How about that?
Absolutely. That's such a
Yeah.
great story. And again, such a great lesson to share with people. The other thing you talk about is casual leads to casualties.
Yeah.
Talk about that for a minute.
Boy, I tell you, this one really hit me across the face. As a speaker, you get to do a lot of opportunities, and I love every one of them. But there are some special ones, right? The ones that you get that phone call. Excuse me, you get that phone call. It's like, whoa. And the phone call I got was from NASA to speak at NASA's Safety Day in Cape Canaveral. Now, I grew up in the 60s and 70s where space was everything. Every little kid, you're probably not that old, but every little kid back in the 60s wrote in a little book, I want to be an astronaut, right?
Right.
And so here I am. I get to go be this place where this whole thing started. So I'm geeking out, right? So we're negotiating, right? We're negotiating what we're going to do. And that was the moment I realized there's more than money, right? And I said, okay, I'll take a lot less money, but they said, well, we'll give you the experience of being basically an astronaut for a day.
Oh, fun.
So I can't get through this talk crap fast enough, right? I'm like,
right.
so So one of the things they let me do is they have a room at Cape Canaveral, and it's the remains of the Space Shuttle Columbia.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's a very sacred place there. And there's one
Mm-hmm.
gentleman who basically owns that room. And so I had time with this gentleman to see.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to talk to me. I wanted to talk to him. But he says something that triggered this. He said, if Apollo 1 doesn't happen, and unfortunately, our younger generation doesn't know what Apollo 1 is. Apollo 1
Right.
was the first Apollo where the 3 astronauts perished.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, if Apollo 1 doesn't happen, we don't get to the moon. And I'm like, that didn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, he said, you got to listen. Remember back in the 60s, space was everything, right? We
Right.
had to beat the Russians, right? We
Right.
had more money than we knew what to do with, right?
Right.
We got casual. And that casualness led to casualties. He goes, if this happens up in outer space, we stop it. We don't go to the moon. He said, and that we did the same thing that happened at Columbia. We got casual because of that O-ring, right?
Right.
The O-ring. They got casual. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking it's like, what a great metaphor. Because if you get casual with a relationship, what happens? You get divorced.
Right.
You get casual with your money, you go broke. Casual with your
Right.
health, you die. So casualness in my mind says that you can't be casual with anything in your life. You got to
Right.
have intentionality in every part of your life. That's why my little book over here, I got something in every part of my life where every day we're doing something, because casualness leads to casualties.
So good. I love that. That is powerful, super powerful. All right. And then the last thing, and I love this one,
Yeah.
Habits control your thoughts. Let's dive
Yeah.
into that one.
Oh wow, yeah. It's one of the things that I've learned through my life, and I've had the pleasure. I've had a mentor, Bill, started with me in 1983, and until he passed away in 1997. Then Tony Robbins was very kind. He took me on as being the head of security. And one of the things both of them talked about, right, was discipline,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I was casual. I was not very disciplined when I was a young man. But what I learned is, as I read and had these discussions with these people, how these people become the people they are is because the habits they put in place, right?
Right.
Habits. And then when one day Tony and I were talking, and he just said, "You got to remember, whatever habits you have, control your thoughts, your emotions, whatever habits." So I'm thinking, you're exactly right, because if I put a habit in to improve my health improves because it's a
Right.
discipline, right?
Right.
So I tell people, whatever habit you have, or what's controlling what your mind's doing, whatever it is. If you're, whatever habit you have, how you handle money,
Mm-hmm.
that's why you are where you're at right now. And all you got to do to have a limitless life, and I talk about this in my book, first step is just to change your habits. Just change your habits, right? And I have this thing in my book called a habit tracker. Every quarter I change or improve another habit.
Mm-hmm.
That way I'm intentional about what habits I'm focusing on. And that way I have 16 new habits a year.
So good. How many people, Dave, I know you're just now really starting to put in like some coaching programs to help people go deeper with you. How many people have you been able to follow up on or follow up with that you have spoken and you've sort of laid out these strategies for them, so to speak?
Yeah.
How many have come back and told you how much you impacted their life?
Well, I get notes about every week from somebody who heard me
That's
speak.
amazing.
And it's amazing because I get these in very, very emotional little notes. But directly I know of two gentlemen who basically got new jobs and basically changed their entire lives and the direction they were going. And they said because I had one interaction with them, right? And we really went deep in some of these lessons. And so you never know who you're going to impact. And that's why I tell people, you never know who you're going to impact. There's people there that probably I've impacted, I'll never know. But it's very rewarding. And my wife sees these letters come in and they're like, how many girlfriends do you got? I'm like, I got girlfriends about every port. I got one in every port. When you're married 37 years, you can get away with saying something
I was going to say you've been married a long time, Dave.
If I was married 5 years, that wouldn't fly too well, right? That would probably. But she sees these letters. She's over that point. It's like, all right.
Somewhere there's some trust.
I got lined up over here. I got some of them lined up over my little desk over here. Everybody can walk in and say, you know what? All right, that's a win. That's a game.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so true, especially when you're speaking to crowds, and obviously the ripple effect. And you don't realize you impact and change someone's life, and whose lives do they change as well? Their families, their friends. I mean, you just never know. But I love that because I knew you had stories around that. I knew you probably got letters. I knew you probably had people come back and tell you. This is so good, Dave. I know I could talk to you all day. You're so interesting and you have so much to share. Let's talk about the Navy SEAL thing though,
Yep.
because this is so cool. This is where your part of your philanthropy comes
Yep.
in and your charity work. So talk about what you actually do every single year with the Navy SEALs.
Yeah, I never intended to do this ever in my life. Okay, I just put the premise out there. But yeah, I'm very focused on giving back. And I think it's gratitude. The cure to everything is gratitude, giving back to somebody, giving thanks and
Yes.
giving back. Well, the reason I do it is the first reason I did it back 4 years ago is that I got a call from my friend in the Navy to ask me if I swim with her in the Hudson, and that might be therapeutic for me. And I know it's going to be therapeutic, but I think, I'm always up for a good challenge, right? But then I heard the reason why is because the suicide rate in the military, people transitioning out, is averages 22 people a day commit suicide.
Oh my
And
goodness. Wow.
this organization is going to raise money to help combat that. So that got me in. But the second part of it is I want to show my kids how to face your fears, like going
Yes.
back to them. So, and I had swam for 40 years. So
Wow.
there's a lot of things came in, but that's the reason I started doing it. And we raised some money. That's great. But it also got me to the point of thinking is like, these people have given themselves, their time, their efforts for giving me the liberties that I have. So I got very close to the military. So I started doing it year after year, right? And I could raise money, but I also could show people. And one of the things I like to do, things I talk about on stages, is people are looking for people who are congruent.
Right.
There's a lot of people that talk a big game, right? You might see a speaker on stage, he or she has a great message, but maybe overweight or they're not really on top of their game. But those top speakers, those top influencers got it all together. So number one, I could improve myself and put new habits in, but I really have the opportunity now to raise money and work one-on-one with a lot of these folks who are in the challenging state, right? I mean, last year I swam for a wife. For her husband committed suicide. He came home from the army from Afghanistan. I swam for him this year. I swam from a gentleman who was in Africa and came back and unfortunately passed away. So every year I swim for somebody who is giving their service for us, so I could do it for them. So I'm very passionate about that and passionate for the Red Cross because they were there for us that day. So I just tell people the cure, if you have any challenges or fears, the cure is just give gratitude, and you can't be fearful when you have gratitude because you're giving thanks.
Yes.
Be fearful when you give thanks.
So good. I just love how so many people let things like what happened to you, they let it define them, they let it run them, they go the opposite way. And I love how you have allowed God to diffuse this in your life in such a big way, and all the impact that you're making on so many levels. I just want to thank you, Dave, for everything that you're doing. Just it's just so amazing. We're grateful for you.
I'm just honored that I've had the opportunity to do that, and I think I'm going to say this, and hopefully everybody takes it the right way. But I think God opens pathways for everybody,
I
and
believe he does.
you either take the path or you don't take the path. And my belief
Yes,
is, if you don't take the path, he may never open it up again. Right? All I did
I
is
believe
step
it.
through that path. All I did is say, I'm going to take it on wherever God
Yeah,
takes me. Right? I'm going to go, and I've been blessed to go places I would never. I mean, we were never met. All these people I got the opportunity to be with,
right.
if I didn't take that step, just say, God opened the door, because I wasn't supposed to be on the plane that day. Why was I
Yeah.
on the plane?
There's always a reason. Yeah. And I always, it doesn't matter whether, I've said this so many times, it doesn't matter whether, you're running late or you get stopped and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late. But you don't know that God didn't stop you from being in an accident. You don't know that there wasn't something up ahead that you couldn't see. I always say he can see what we cannot. And
Right.
so it's been so fun to have this conversation with you and for you to share. And I just love everything you're doing. I'm so honored to have you here. I'm honored to have you on my magazine cover, and just let more people know about you, even though a lot of people already know about you, Dave. But just really spread that message and everything that you're doing. So thank you again. How can
Thank you, man.
people reach out to you, get a hold of you? First of all, he's all over LinkedIn, so you can
I was
definitely
gonna say
find
that's
him.
probably the best way.
You
Yeah,
can
I'm
connect
really,
with him there. Yes.
yeah, I put new content out every week. Because I all of a sudden things come to me, but that LinkedIn's a great way. But my website's davesandersonspeaks.com.
Mhm.
It goes straight to me. I don't have it filtered like some people. It goes straight to me, and I address everything that goes on with people interaction. So please reach out if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, or ideas. I'm wide open for ideas. Likewise, it's
Yeah.
amazing how things happen when you just people open up some opportunities for you, and
Hmm.
you embrace that uncertainty as I talk about, right?
Yeah, 100%. Or I actually, you were talking about speaking at a men's group. Might have to have you be introduced to someone that runs the men's group at our church, because he's had hundreds of people show up for speakers like you as well. And
I'd be honored.
he's also a speaker and does a lot of leadership coaching and organizations and things like that. Might have to get the two of you connected. So,
I'd be honored. My next speaking engagement's the next Tuesday in Las Vegas, and it's for a spiritual group, spiritual breakfast in
mm.
Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay. That's going to be an interesting talk. That's in Vegas. Doing a spiritual talk in Vegas. I haven't done this
Uh,
before, so
that will be.
we're going for it.
They could use it there.
We're going to go for it. You know what? Whatever happens, they may run me out of town, but whatever happens next Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. So
I love it. There's a reason why you're supposed to be there. So,
that's right.
Dave, thank you so much. I'm super excited for this episode to come out, for everyone to hear this. And make sure you connect with Dave. We're going to put all of his links and everything in the show notes. You can grab his books on Amazon. Reach out to him. You can see he's a super personable, super nice guy. He will have a conversation with you. So just take advantage of all those links and get connected with Dave, or invite him to speak at your organization or your charity. And you can see he's just amazing. So thanks again, Dave.
Thank you, Ann.
All right, everyone. Thank you for being here. Make sure you share this episode. We want to get this out into the world, and make sure you subscribe to the show too. And we always say sharing is caring. And we're trying to get this show up to the top 1% of podcasts. Right now, we're at about 10% climbing. And so we just appreciate you being here listening. And until next time, God bless you, and go rock your business. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in today. If you're as excited as I am about scaling up your influence, business, and bank account, then I have just the thing for you. But first, make sure you subscribe to the show. Second, make sure you share it with someone you care about, because sharing is caring. And third, head on over to join me in my next free virtual exclusive workshop, where we'll explore proven strategies to boost your business and maximize your potential. Look, it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you're looking to take your business to the next level. My workshops are designed for you. So head on over to expertinyouworkshop.com to reserve your spot and get ready to transform your expertise into extraordinary success. I'm looking forward to seeing you there and helping you achieve incredible growth. Until next time, make sure you're always seeking the expert in you, and God bless. Have an amazing day.